Welcome back to the Gospel Sports Truth Podcast, and we are in football season. As we speak, the Dallas Cowboys are up 17-14 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Wouldn't it just be apropos for Dallas to win this game and for Vegas to rake in a boatload of money on week one, on game one of week one? We'll get into all that kind of good stuff in just a few minutes. We got a lot to talk about, y'all. With that being said, I'm your host, Dave, the Fantasy Football Fiend, and I have my guy BK Wins. Holla at the people.
Hey, y'all.
So a lot going on this week, BK. I would like to start out with asking you, sir, did you see what the money machine is about to do to one of the best products that was on the market, and it was doing just fine? Do you know what I'm talking about, BK?
Mm-mm.
Let me fill you in. It has been confirmed today that the RedZone will no longer be commercial free. And I, for one, I'm a little upset about this, BK. Like, I know you went out and spent an arm and a leg, and what are we doing? Like, the whole point people were watching was because there weren't any commercials. It's because I could watch that and not fall asleep because of all the downtime. You're taking the main thing that makes RedZone so great and bringing it back down to I might as well just watch a regular game instead of watching RedZone at all. Yeah. So that I don't understand the logic in it. Like, even if you want to charge for it, I'm good with that. Charge me $4.99 a month or something for it straight up. But come on, man.
Kind of like an ads-free thing where you charge them to have ads-free.
Yeah, but no, this isn't cool. It's just
it sounds like
I don't appreciate the move.
It sounds like doing too much.
Absolutely doing too much, way too much. And they just started the new app, the ESPN Unlimited app. That's like $30. So I mean, like people already, like, how much do you want people to pay? Like, before long, all sports are going to be pay-per-view. Like the paradigm is going to shift. You're gonna have to spend more money to watch football than you have to spend to watch boxing. It's going to completely flip-flop, and that's what people. That's when people started turning away from boxing, when it was like we never get to see the good fights because we can't afford the sport anymore. And I just hope football doesn't jump the shark and end up damaging what it has from greed. You want to be in every country, charge, like, you got to pay for Prime, you got to pay for Paramount Plus, you got to pay for apps, and it's too much.
What does that say? They say keep it simple.
Keep it simple, like,
where less is more. Yeah.
Either one of those will be apropos.
So I was curious today because I know we were talking earlier and it seemed like there was a lot on your mind. Is there anything else that you need to get off your chest tonight?
Absolutely. It all makes sense now. I'm taking my glasses off for this one, BK. It all makes sense now. Why in the world would any superstar that can get paid the same money elsewhere choose to be a LA Clipper? Well, apparently it's because you can make $28 million under the table as long as Mr. Ballmer is your owner, because he'll create a shell company named Aspire Tree Removal and then link that shell company to a company called KL2. You didn't even try to hide it. Like, what in the world is, like, something drastic has to happen. You circumvented the salary cap by almost $30 million. For those of you that aren't aware of this circumstance that's going on in the NBA, it's been stated or investigated that the Clippers paid Kawhi Leonard $28 million under the table over the max that they could pay him so that he would choose them. And their owner, again, created a shell company in which to do so. And you know the saddest part about this, BK?
What's that?
It's Dallas against Eagles. No one's going to care about this again until the NBA makes some sort of announcement. Like it's football season now. They put this information out there at the perfect time so the lead can be buried. Kawhi ain't going to say anything because he don't talk to anybody. Bomber isn't going to say anything because his legal team is going to tell him not to. So we'll be over. This story will be over before it even gets started, unfortunately. I do to the parties involved. But if this were the Lakers and LeBron, dare I say, it might be the greatest scandal in NBA history. People will be calling for him to be booted out of the league and for the Lakers to be fined every draft pick for the next decade. But I guess you don't get the same vitriol when you don't have the same W's. But yeah, those are the two things that very much stood out to me this week.
Yeah, so absolutely agree with you on the red zone. If they want to charge you to go ad free, I'm with that. I understand, but to do what they did makes no sense. Like I hate it too. And maybe this is like karma and punishment for the Clippers. That's why they never win anything. But I have a couple things for you this week.
Okay.
So y'all have heard me complain about this ad nauseum. But, my brother and I have always talked about replay. And if you have the technology to use it, the important thing is to use it and get the calls right, right? That makes sense. No one I think will dispute that. You have the ability to get the call right, get it right. So help me understand. To quote something you say, explain this to me like I'm a 2-year-old. Why the LSU officials or the SEC officials in the LSU Clemson game incorrectly overturned a touchdown catch for LSU. Also explain to me why South Carolina got incorrectly jobbed out of a touchdown catch against Va-Tech. Both of those were catches. And I'm going to rant about two things about this. One, I keep hearing if we have the technology to get it right, we'll use it to get it right. Then why do we keep missing it? Because they screwed up both of those calls. They were both touchdown catches. And which leads to the second part of the first rant, which is we've made it way too damn hard to determine what a catch is anymore. Like, you've got to give a kidney and a liver, but if you breathe 3 times, but not 2 times, but if you have a half a knee and it counts as, look, to quote what a Supreme Justice said about porn one time, I'll know it when I see it. All of us, when we see a catch, know it's a catch or not. This whole, did he complete the process all the way to the ground, and did he do this? And way too hard. You know it's a catch. Both of those were catches. Both of those were touchdowns. Both of those teams got screwed on those calls. They've got to do better, and they've got to revisit this rule because it shouldn't be too hard to determine what a catch is. It's way too complicated. Rant 2. And this I would love to hear your reaction to as someone who's a proud parent. So there's a story, not a story. There's an actual situation that happened out of Kentucky. Don't know if you saw this, where a University of Kentucky cheerleader who had gone out on the record saying she really wanted to have a baby, ultimately got arrested released on $100,000 bond, and now is at her parents' house in Tennessee, and is facing criminal charges for essentially corpse abuse and a bunch of other things, which the charges aren't necessarily relevant here. But you admitted to authorities that you intentionally hid your pregnancy by cleaning up every evidence of said pregnancy, including wrapping up your no longer living baby in a towel and throwing it in a garbage bag. What the hell, Zay?
Well, I hate to do this, BK, but I have to. I would first just like to point out that if her complexion was mine, $100,000 bond, and we're talking about a dead baby, you only got to pay 10% of that to get out. And they let her out of the state. There's parts and pieces of this that got to be missing because something ain't right. Like, ain't no way. Like, what? What? $100,000 bond? That's crazy. Doesn't move me as much as reaction to crazy. Crazy's everywhere now. Unfortunate.
That part.
But where's the deterrent to crazy when babies can show up missing or no longer breathing, and $100,000 bond is going to get you out in about? That's a lot. So that's a lot. Replay officials completely agree with you as far as that was concerned. I saw both of those and I'm like, okay, buddy, if it wasn't a pass, if he was just running the ball in from the spot where he caught the ball, there would be no question at all that it was a touchdown. He literally touched the pylon, went out of bounds, and then because of what happens when he hit the ground out of bounds after he had already taken a step or a step and a half, if not, that then determined that it wasn't it's underwater 3D chess is what determining the catch is now, and it makes no sense for it to be that difficult. But yeah, that's I've been over it since the Dez Bryant "this isn't a catch" that we all saw him catch the ball. So yeah, it's time to get into the good word of the week. We need a good word after all of that. What we got up first, BK?
Well, let's do a little college football rewind week 1. So what was the biggest surprise or biggest surprises for you this week after week 1's games?
Biggest surprises for me, I thought Texas was going to be a little bit better than they were. I thought Florida State was going to be a little bit worse than they were. I thought Notre Dame was going to be a little bit better than they were. And I feel like Clemson may be better off losing week 1 than winning week 1, because they tend to play better when they have that chip on their shoulder type of a situation. So yeah, those are the big and the fact that North Carolina got the crap kicked out of them. Not the fact that they lost, but that they lost the way they did. And it feels like around about the third quarter, they did something that I can't say I saw until the very tail end of Bill Belichick's coaching tenure at New England, which is kind of felt like the team kind of gave up on him. So those are the biggest surprises for me.
So for me, the biggest surprise was Florida State beating Bama. And what made it even more surprising was that opening drive, Bama just rammed it down their throat.
Yeah.
And immediately they ran literally 8 of 9 plays and scored a touchdown, and they looked really easy doing it.
It was like,
And I'm like,
oh boy.
and I'm like, oh boy, it's going to be one of those.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, I've seen this movie before and I hated it. But then something changed, and Florida State made some adjustments, and they actually bullied Alabama. And I think the thing that surprised me was, you never know with the portal and recruiting and NIL and all those things. You never really know what a team is going to look like. We think we do, but in this day and age, you really never know. And Florida State replaced their offensive coordinator. They got Gus Bus, Gus Malzahn, who knows a little thing or two about beating Bama. Sorry, Bama fans, I know. But, he did it well. And, they got Tony Lewis to be the defensive coordinator. And, it's what we always say, Zay. You have competent quarterback play now with Castellanos, who's a dual threat guy. They ran for 100 yards between the tackles, 100 yards outside of the tackles. They were able to do whatever they wanted. They controlled the line of scrimmage, and their coaching was much, much better. Look, it's only one game. They have a couple easy games coming up against East Texas A&M and Kent State. All right, so they got a couple weeks to rest. But I'll be curious to see if this was a one-game performance, or this might be the start of a turnaround year for Florida State. Because I don't know. I just know they were really good one day. That's what I know.
Or is Bama even worse than we thought they could be? In Florida, maybe they're two paths and trains. Like, I don't necessarily know that Bama without Nick Saban is anything more than, I don't even want to. I don't even know what school to compare him to. Like, probably if we're using another SEC school, I would probably say that they're now somewhere in the weeds with the Texas A&Ms, the maybe the Oklahoma, Texas, that like somewhere in that realm, versus being higher than others. And the thing that happens when you lose that aura, and no one, I mean, people literally feared going up against Bama. Like, half the game was already won when they got off the bus.
Yep.
But now you don't have any of that. So
no, I agree. I think both of those things are true, right? I do think that with the coaching and the quarterback play, assuming he stays healthy, I think Florida State is what I said last year, which is they have the surrounding talent. It was the quarterback play that screwed them. If in Castellanos, if he plays anywhere like he played this week, Florida State will be really good, especially in a down ACC. But again, only one game. We'll see how they do. As we're not planning the parade yet. One game is one game. But I do think Bama is in trouble, and we'll talk more about them later. But I was also curious to ask you. So, and you touched on this a little bit, but what were the biggest disappointments for you this week?
North Carolina, Bama, Notre Dame, Army. Like it's there are a few other losses that might have been a little surprising, but not many that were as disappointing. I look at that a little bit differently than surprising, if you will. But those were the ones that were disappointing that immediately come to mind. Yeah, those are the ones that I would say are disappointing. I was thinking about throwing Clemson in there, but LSU and Clemson is just a good game, so I can't necessarily say that I'm disappointed, but I was surprised in the second half that I was disappointed in the second half of football that they put out there. I'll say that.
You get shut out at home in the second half, that's a bad look, you know? And so here's what I'll say. Bama and North Carolina for sure were the two biggest losers. I would say Army, even though most people, I would say you and I do this for a living, so we understand, but I don't know too many people Army losing what they did was on anyone else's radar, right? Um, but when you come out before the season and say you're going undefeated and you lose game one at home and don't score a point in the second half against a team who couldn't cover anybody the year before, and look, give LSU credit, their defense is better. I mean, it's definitely.
And a team that's lost their season opener for the last 5 seasons.
Right. Two of them to Florida State. So, not that I forgot those. But that being said, the reason why it's disappointing is you talked a lot of trash about this was going to be a 16-0 team and how much you believed in your quarterback. And then you throw your quarterback under the bus. And here's the thing, Zay, I know that you and Vander are the fantasy football draft experts, okay? So this is just little BK wins in his little 2 cents. When they talked about it during the telecast, that Klubnik was considered the number 6 rated prospect in next year's draft, I about spit out my drink because in every single game that he's played, other than the playoff game last year against Texas, in every single other game he's played against relevant competition, Florida State the last 2 years, Georgia last year to open the season, LSU. I could go on, right? This guy has crapped his pants over and over again. And you watched him in the LSU game. So let's rewind. He lost the game against Florida State 2 years ago because instead of making the right decision, he forced a throw and panicked and threw it to Florida State, right? Then last year against Carolina, all he had to do was not make a stupid decision and they kick a field goal, and he panicked and he threw a pick. And last Saturday against LSU, twice in his red zone, in his own team's red zone, or inside their own 20, I should say, he panicked when he was under pressure and threw the ball up for grabs, and it almost got picked off. He was throwing balls late across the middle to more other balls almost got picked off. My point is, any quarterback can get fooled and make mistakes. But if you're a top 6 pick who's been there now in your 3rd year, every time you're under pressure, it shouldn't be a panic drill. Okay. The game should slow down. And if it doesn't slow down for you in college, in year 3, how is it going to slow down when the players are bigger, faster, stronger, and there's better schemes?
Well, BK, I will say this. I've seen the 2nd or 3rd prospect on the board be crappy. So for them to say the number 6 prospect off the board at quarterback is crappy, that may not be. I mean, who's I can't remember who the 6th quarterback drafted this year was, but I'm pretty sure he ain't starting nowhere. Like the 6th quarterback off the board this year was probably Will Howard or somebody like that.
But he's supposed to go number 6 in the draft.
Wait, that's different. That's different. I thought you meant 6th quarterback.
No.
You mean top 6 pick in the draft?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, no. Lord have mercy now. No. And absolutely not. I thought you were saying that they were saying that he was the 6th best quarterback prospect. You're saying 6th best overall prospect?
Correct.
Oh, no. Absolutely not. I'll draft the offensive lineman before I draft him. Easily.
Although I am going to double check this just to be sure.
But I mean, my thing is this: as a coach, is it really what you want to do to be throwing kids under the bus? I understand in the NFL, we're all pros at that point. If you're the one that screwed up the game, you were the one that screwed up the game. But is that really what you want to do to the fragile confidence of a college kid, 3 years in or not?
But honestly, Zay, it's what Dabo does.
I know. And it's only been one or two quarterbacks that's been able to take it. So maybe he needs to change.
But here's the thing. What we found out about Clemson is if he doesn't have a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-generation quarterback, which he's happened to be fortunate enough to have two of them in Watson and Lawrence, the team's offense doesn't look very good. Their offensive line isn't very good. Their quarterback play is above average at best. The running game isn't any good. Like, what are you going to do? But here's the thing. It's one thing behind the scenes if you want to, lay into him, right? But to publicly throw him under the bus after you spent all offseason praising him and telling him about how great he is and how proud you are, it can't be both.
Yeah.
Because one thing, to quote my dad, don't tell me you love me, show me, right? And so actions speak louder than words.
Yep.
You can say how great he is and how proud you are of him, but then the first chance when things don't go your way, and granted he played terrible, and we all know he played bad, you publicly threw him under the bus.
And that was your opportunity to build him up and say,
Correct.
Hey, I could have coached harder. We could have ran harder. We could have played more defense. This is a team sport. We're not putting it on one person. We'll all be better next week. But what you chose to do is keep the dog when he was down.
But yeah, most coaches, exactly to your point, they say exactly that. They're like, you know what? This starts with me. We didn't coach well enough. I didn't do a good enough job of getting him prepared for this. That's on me. Our defense played great and played well enough to win, but I have to figure out a way to get us better prepared to play in these games offensively.
How about this? Put your players in better positions to succeed.
Yeah.
Because look, you might have thought I was speaking tongue in cheek last week when I told you Dabo Swinney by end of year may just be on a hot seat. No, I meant that. And it started this week. I really feel like Clemson is going to start to see that maybe it was the recruiting that happened for those couple of times that they kind of fell into and not necessarily the coach. And here's the thing. If you aren't going to get the once-in-a-generation talent going forward, then you may want to have a coach that can actually coach kids up and build their confidence instead of tearing them down and making them feel even worse about the situation than they did when they knew they played bad to begin with. So I'm not one for constructive criticism, absolutely, but saying what he said, the way he said it about who he said it about, is in no way constructive. So I don't consider that to be constructive criticism. It's just criticism. And if you want to criticize, well, start with yourself first before you start talking about the kids. That's just where I'm at with that.
And what's been consistently true is he's not a great winner. He loves talking a lot of trash when he wins, right?
He's an even worse loser.
He's even a worse loser. He's a whiny crybaby when he loses. And it's like he's been losing a lot more than he wants to.
He's aggravating in the offseason. Like, I don't even like to hear him talking about possibly winning. Like, he's just aggravating. Like, he makes it so easy not to like Clemson. Clemson isn't even that good. The only reason they're still in the headlines, and maybe this is why he does what he does, because if not for them being in the headlines due to him putting a target on their back, no one would be thinking about them anymore. Like they would just be another school at this point. They're just another ACC school that may come back to fruition at some point in time. And guess what? If Miami and FSU beat you there, you may never get back to where you were because they're more likely to be sustainable because people would prefer to be there than at Clemson, where there's literally nothing there but the school and sheep and cows surrounding the area. Like there's nothing else in Clemson. Of course, I'd rather be in Miami. I'd rather be in Louisville than in Clemson.
Well, I will tell you this, Zay. It's amazing how 1 week changes things. Because I don't use this word often, as you know, on the show or at all. But I hated the thought of Florida State playing Clemson this year after last year. But
Not
after
anymore.
1 week, I'm ready. Let's go.
When do y'all play? Do you know?
I think it's October. Hold on.
Okay.
I gotta look.
No worries. So we're talking about maybe game 4 or 5 somewhere in there. So both teams will have had an opportunity to kind of cross the T's and dot the I's by that point. So at least you'll know whether it's happenstance or whether you're just better than them. So that's a good thing.
So I can confirm for you that it's actually November 8th.
Okay.
So we got plenty of time.
Plenty of time, for sure. But they do too. So I don't know if that works out better or worse for you for what you look in the game. But I'm looking forward to it. What are you most looking forward to?
I just hope Klubnik is playing in that game. I don't know I'm benched by then.
It's a lot of time in between now and then. I don't know how many more disappointments Dabo's going to take before he pulls up the younger kid.
Well, let me ask you this. Of these games coming up in week 2, the most notable games are Michigan at Oklahoma, Illinois at Duke, Iowa at Iowa State, and the Fighting Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss at Kentucky.
Don't really care for week 2.
Well,
I don't really care for week 2. Week 1 was amazing. Week 2 is like the club is closing. Pick someone. Like it's, week 2 is horrible. But go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, no, listen, you're right. When the second best game on the docket is Illinois at Duke, we have a problem.
I'll be watching football on this coming Saturday just because it'll be on and I'm at work. So the Michigan OU game might not be bad though, but it'll be because it's 2 teams with a decent name and neither one of them are nearly as good as they should be. So they'll make it look as if both are better than they actually are. That's kind of how I feel that game will turn out.
Do you have a winner in the game?
Hopefully Oklahoma. But Michigan will probably win the game. But honestly, though, I think that's a good matchup for them. I mean, Michigan didn't exactly. Nevada was looking decent against Michigan for a good bit of that game. So, I mean, I don't know that OU won't necessarily be able to outclass them, but I'll be looking at it to see which team crashes the hardest in that game. I really don't. I'm not looking for any silver lining in that dark cloud, to be honest with you. Now, Illinois versus Duke, I'm looking to see if the Illini can continue to do what they started last year. Like, you can't continue to win but for so long before you can't sneak up on people anymore and before people stop doubting you. And the Illini don't have but so many more wins that are necessary before they are in that window. Now, Iowa State, that's always a good game, even though they are little known teams. It's just one of those in-state rivalry type situations. And a lot of times the little brother who is supposed to be Iowa State will kick the big brother in the teeth and win that battle. So that'll be interesting to see. Ole Miss UK, whenever you have 2 teams that are very familiar with each other, even though they aren't necessarily the cream of the crop, even of their own conference, it can still be a very interesting game. I'm looking at that game along the same lines as I'm looking at the Michigan OU game, not because of the level of familiarity which OU and Michigan don't have, but because I believe that the play you'll see will have you thinking that both teams are actually better than they are until they play against someone that doesn't suck as much as they do. So yeah, that's where I'm at on, as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, so conference road games, especially the first one of the year, is always tough. So, Ole Miss having to go at Kentucky. Kentucky's, I don't think, as talented as they've been under other Mark Brooks's teams have been, but it's still always a challenge to go on the road. I mean, we saw Georgia last year struggle mightily to try to beat Kentucky on the road, so I mean, it can happen. But Iowa State should be a competitive game. They usually are very close. Illinois and Duke. Selfishly, I want Illinois to win for part of my best bets because this is one of those 50-50 games that if Illinois gets that over 7.5 has a really, really good chance of hitting then. And then Michigan and Oklahoma, what's interesting to me is Oklahoma looked better offensively last week, but they also played an easier team. What people don't know is the coach in the game against Michigan last week was the same former head coach of Idaho who almost upset Oregon. And so he's able to do these things and make things really tough, especially earlier in the year. The thing that concerns me about Oklahoma is what do we know about Michigan? They want to be physical and they want to run the ball, right? Control the line of scrimmage. That's what they do. Well, Oklahoma couldn't run the ball against the little sissies of the poor last week. I'm pretty sure they're going to have even a harder time running it against Michigan. Now, I say that, and they'll probably end up running for 300 yards. So, but based on last week's performance, it would be fair to question how they'll hold up at the line of scrimmage. I can't wait to see how this game goes because, truthfully, based on these fan bases and what their expectations are for these teams, for those teams to hit where they want to be at the end of the year, they got to have this game. And so I'm really curious to see who plays better and wins this game. It should be a great game. It's honestly, to me, the most intriguing game by far of the weekend.
So I talked a little bit about one of the teams I was most disappointed in, and I can't even necessarily say I'm most disappointed in the team more so than saying I'm disappointed in the coach because Bill Belichick, sir, this was bad. This was a bad look. It's okay to lose, especially when you're with a team that isn't known for winning in this sport. But when the likes of Michael Jordan and some of the upper echelon of the North Carolina alum, if you will, comes out to see you, and all the cameras have been on you, all the news stories, all this kind of good stuff, and TCU comes out and kicks the crap out of you, yeah, that stings. That's one of those losses that can set up a very long season. One thing I do know about Bill Belichick is when we're on the next week, we're on the next week. And I'm assuming he's going to attempt to instill that same type of mentality in the North Carolina Tar Heels, but that was a lot. I expected them to be more disciplined. I expected the defense to play better. I just expected more out of a Bill Belichick-led team, especially when he's the czar, if you will. Everything goes the way he wants it to go, and I'm pretty sure that's the way it's set up right now. Even so much as far as he's not allowing New England Patriot scouts to visit North Carolina games. That's one of his stipulations. The Patriots can't even scout his players. So when you're in that much control of everything and you fail this miserably, the buck stops with you. And I'm hoping that this type of loss stops with this game. So.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is my reaction to that is this. Like you said, and you're absolutely right. It's one thing to lose. It's a nature of football, right? Or any sport, you're not going to win every game. So the fact that they lost, especially the first game under his regime, is not awful or bad, right? But when you get absolutely blown out and that game is over early, like it was so bad, it was almost like a name your score game for TCU. Like in the second half, they totally took their foot off the brakes. But the other part that I've never thought I'd see with Bill Belichick, and I don't know if you saw this, but I did. His girlfriend literally came on the field during the game to talk to him. Like, I'm absolutely baffled that he would let this happen.
I don't know that he did let it happen. I think that's one of those things that you won't see again. And he didn't think he had to say not to do in order for her to know that it should not be done. I think that's where all of this kind of ends up. But yeah, I need Bill to be Bill or to find something else to do with his time, because you've been too great to go out like this. Like for your last few years at the Patriots to end your NFL career, and for your college career to start out like this, it makes it highly unlikely that anyone's going to ask you to come back to the NFL, which this I kind of feel was supposed to be like a reclamation project sort of a deal. But you aren't reclaiming anything. You're stamping the seal on your own demise if this is the way the season goes. It's time to move on to our truth and nothing but the truth. And first up, BK, I have a question for you, sir.
Uh-oh.
Is it true that one Arch Manning is already a bust? Or is this just week one and a very hectic environment and his first time actually starting in a game that mattered? So you can't really judge him just yet. What is your truth as it pertains to Archie Manning?
So he was in a tough spot on the road. While the Buckeyes were replacing 8 starters on defense, Matt Patricia, who's an former NFL defensive coordinator, you give somebody with that kind of experience a whole offseason to prepare for your team, with all those schemes that he had and rotating D-line and all the stunts and all the gimmicks that he ran, he had him confused. So give credit to Ohio State's defense being well prepared, executing the game plan, and playing really well. However, what I'll say is, and I won't even use my words, I'll use Steve Spurrier's words, since he knows a little bit more about football than I do, particularly when it comes to the quarterback position. Spurrier said, it's very telling that this is Arch Manning's 3rd year there, and he sat behind Urs both years. If you have a highly rated prospect who's that good, he's going to play, and he's going to force to play way sooner than he did. And I'm going to add something to it that I've said numerous times on this show. I'm convinced that Urs came back not fully healthy last year from his injury and rushed back because he didn't look right the rest of the year. And I'm convinced he came back early because he realized that or the team even probably told him, you at 60% is better than what Arch is at 100. So if you can protect yourself and play, we'd rather you play. The fact that he hasn't played for 2 years, other than those couple games, per Spurrier, is an indictment that he's just not it. And if you're not it in college, where talent-wise Texas has a big advantage over a lot of teams they play, then what are you going to do in the NFL? Like, the fact that he was listed as the number 1 rated prospect before the season started, and obviously has plummeted since, he's going to play better than he did moving forward because most people aren't Ohio State's defense.
Agreed.
But to me, Zay, it wasn't as concerning that he played so bad for 3 quarters and finally played better in quarter 4. It's that he was missing wide open receivers that were standing 5 yards from him. And I don't like to say this often, but you and I can throw a pass 5 yards away. Like, how do you throw it in their feet from 5 yards away numerous times?
He got shook.
But as a third-year player there who's been in the system and knows Sark's system, that can't happen. The game should have slowed down.
Well, I mean, should it though? Because being there for 3 years and only playing now gives you about as much experience as I have, other than the 2 games that you've played. So I don't know that the holding the clipboard and watching someone else do it works for everyone. I think the Arch Manning that you see at the end of the year will be a lot different than the Arch Manning that you see at the beginning of the year. And if Texas and Ohio State were to meet up with each other again, Ohio State would still win because Sayin would be a lot more mature, if you will, than he was in his game 1, which he looked better than Arch Manning, and he doesn't have nearly the same fanfare. But with all that being said, I believe that he is not nearly as bad as he seemed, and he's not nearly as good as he has been touted. I'll give him a comp of current pros, Daniel Jones.
Oof.
Here's the thing, though. You give Daniel Jones a good offensive line. And the reason I say Daniel Jones, both are slightly athletic, are deceivingly athletic, I'll say. You don't think they're going to take off on you, but they will. They can throw the ball when you give them time, but if you don't give them time, they're going to look like they don't know what they're doing at all, and they're likely to get hurt. So that's why he's my – and the Giants will even tell you they screwed up Jones' career. They never got him an O-line, or they tried to, but they kept making wrong picks. It can work out for him under the right situation, but just like Daniel Jones, under the wrong situation, you'll probably find yourself on 2 to 3 teams, and then we'll be seeing what happens with your career from there. But next up, in our Truth and Nothing But the Truth, I know we talked about Bama being, disappointing and not really knowing how to feel about their current situation. So I guess I want to know, as far as your truth with Bama, not looking at 1 week, but looking at the prognosis over the next few years, or under the coaching tenure, however long or short that may be, of their current coach who's going into I think he's in his 2nd year now, if I'm not mistaken. But DeBoer, he's probably already on the hot seat. He may be going this year if he didn't have such a huge buyout of $63 million. But do you think Bama is broken beyond repair by this coach, or is it just a matter of, no matter how you like it, there's going to be a storming period and they're still in it? Like, what's your truth for Bama?
Well, so far, I think I've been proven wrong. I was a huge fan of this hire because DeBoer has won big wherever he's been. Like, not just one, but he's won, like, huge. And I figure if you can win in other places, most recently Washington, and you get Alabama resources in the SEC with all that NIL and all those advantages there, I thought for sure he'd be a tremendous success. But 9-3 in year one, including an awful loss at Vandy, and then obviously they lost the bowl game to finish 9-4. I think for me, the buyout currently stands at $63 million. If they wait till after December 1st, it drops to 60. Not that really is a huge difference, right? I mean, $60 million is still a lot of gulps. But I think the concerning thing for me there is they don't have an identity. Like with Nick Saban, you knew what their identity was, and they were really disciplined, and they were able to physically dominate and intimidate a lot of teams. The fact that they got dominated at the line of scrimmage by Florida State outside of that first drive is very concerning. The other thing too is they haven't found a quarterback. He inherited Milroe, and Milroe, if you let him run around, Milroe was really good. He was a great athlete. But if you made Milroe throw in tight windows and made him be accurate, he couldn't do it. And Simpson, again, one game. Maybe Florida State turns out to be great, and maybe they are back to where they were 2 years ago or close to where they were 2 years ago. But in the absence of them being back and being really good, based on just one game, he really struggled in that game. And I think that when you don't have a quarterback that you're confident in and you don't have an identity and you couldn't run the ball the last 3 quarters, they have a problem. Like, how are you going to fix that? Like, I think that Simpson's first start, he's going to get better as the year goes on, much like Sayin and Arch and all those guys, right? What you see in week 1 is not what you'll see the second half of the year. He'll play a lot better. I have no doubt about that. But with this roster, is DeBoer going to be able to fix the quarterback, the line of scrimmage, the seemingly lack of playmakers on offense? Is he going to be able to fix all of that in 1 year? And if they don't, because they still got to play Georgia, they still got to play, I believe they still play Texas. They got to play LSU.
I play Carolina.
They got to play Carolina. Like, and they probably have to play Ole Miss because it seems like they play them every year.
I think so.
So it's like, what are they going to do? I wanted to give me a second for everyone there. I'm actually pulling up the schedule. So if you go through their schedule, they get what should be an easy one this week against Louisiana Monroe at home. They get Wisconsin at home. Then they go at Georgia, home to Vandy. Well, I won't go through the whole schedule, but they got to play at Georgia still, at Missouri, home to Tennessee, at Carolina, home to LSU, home to Oklahoma, and at Auburn. Like, now there's definitely games that they'll win there, but that is knowing you already have a loss. That's not encouraging if you're a Bama fan. Like, where do you stand on Bama? Is it fixable with him? Do you think he'll get fired? Do you think they'll pay that buyout? Like, do you think they'll run it back one more year? But before you answer this,
they'll give him 2 years. They'll give him 2 years.
But the other thing I'm going to ask you too is, I'm going to turn the question around. let's say for argument's sake that their plan is to fire him based on this year's performance, okay? Who's out there better than him that they can actually get that's available to coach that team?
I think you're asking the wrong question. The question should be,
Won't be the first time.
Who is willing to make themselves available if that job is available? That's the question. And I think there's more people that will be willing to make themselves available if the job becomes open. Because you've already, okay. See if you can feel where I'm going here. You've already had Gerard Mayo come in and stink up the joint. You aren't having to follow up Bill Belichick. I think the same thing is going to hold true with Miami. Plenty more people are going to want the job than initially wanted it because you're not following up Nick Saban. You're following up the guy that followed up Nick Saban that couldn't hold his jockstrap.
Do you know who I think should want to go there?
Who's that?
Lane Kiffin.
I can see that.
And former Bama longtime assistant a long time ago, Dabo. I
don't think they'll want Dabo now. Dabo and DeBoer are the same dude.
Notice I didn't say that they would want him necessarily. My comment was I think they should want to go there and make themselves available.
You know who I would want to see get a head coaching job that I think would do a great job with kids of that age?
Who?
This is an out-of-the-box pick. But Brian Flores, DC of the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity he deserves in the NFL, but I would love to see him get the opportunity and parlay that into an NFL head coaching job. Just depending on how that worked out in college, but I don't know if he'll be able to go from DC of Minnesota to a head coaching job. He should have never been fired in Miami, but that's neither here nor there. He wasn't okay with losing, and the owner wanted him to tank for Tua. So, yeah, that's how that worked out. But we have a whole season of things that we will be discussing of that nature. But for today, it is time to move on to one of my favorite segments of the show. Our top 5 all time of something. And this week it is top 5 qualities you admire in others. So, BK, what you got first?
So for me, number 5, courage. I admire when people have courage. Specifically, you hear the stories of all the time about kids battling cancer and the things that no kid should ever have to go through, right? Or people, even adults, going through life-changing, terminal, awful health situations, and the courage they have to fight through that in it is really inspiring. So that would be my number 5. What about you?
If nothing else, the baseline / foundation of society, in my humble opinion, respect. Without it, nothing works. I don't care if you're talking to the homeless person on the street or the president of the United States. Like, respect is a minimum. Like that's decency that we owe each other as human beings. So respect is my number 5. Number 4, what you got?
My number 4 is actually empathy.
Okay.
I think that it, in my experience, And, I think all of us at times can be judgmental, fair or not fair, right? And so, but you never really know what someone's going through until you're in their shoes. So, and people don't always communicate the struggles that they have. They tend to suffer in silence. So, just being more empathetic to what people are going through and being more supportive versus judgmental. So, number 4, empathy. What about you?
Number 4 for me is resourcefulness. People that can get the job done under extreme circumstances or under unfavorable circumstances, figure out a way to get it done and keep it pushing. Resourcefulness for me. Number 4. Number 3.
Love it. Number 3 for me, kindness. It costs nothing to be a good person. And even the country song says, always stay humble and kind, right? Some little quotes are, you can kill them with kindness, but, just being kind to people is such a huge thing. So that's my number 3. What about you?
Number 3 for me is integrity. What you do when no one else is around, no one is watching, how you handle yourself in situations where the truth may never be known to anyone but you and the creator. Integrity. Like there's certain like I shouldn't have to keep my eyes on you to know that you're going to do the right thing. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Integrity.
Well, I mean, you must have peeked at my list because that's my number 2.
Okay.
Is integrity, but for the reasons you said, right? Doing the right thing when no one's watching is a huge thing, and it kind of goes along with the line of trust, and so integrity is important because you want to surround yourself with people that will do the right things, no questions asked. And so that's my number 2. How about you?
Well, number 2 for me was actually empathy. So I, I think it's something that's a little bit more difficult if it's not naturally in you to achieve a high level in, and it's necessary. Um, and it goes along with being kind. Like you may not understand the situation, but you don't have to understand it to know that I'm going through it, and maybe you should kind of just chill a little bit. So yeah, that's what I'm at for my number 2. And breaking news, our number ones are half the same because you kind of cheated a little bit with your number 1. But go on.
So I bundled my number 1, and I said my number 1 is honesty and loyalty. Because I wanted to get them both in there. But I do think, honesty is important because, and I laugh all the time because people say they love honesty unless you're honest with them and they don't like what they're hearing. And then they all of a sudden change and backtrack. But truthfully, honesty is something that should happen all the time. Not disrespectfully being honest, but you can say things in a way where you get your point across without, hurting people's point. But also loyalty. Loyalty is an important thing. It's something that I was taught growing up, and it's something that's so rare these days. People don't seem to stay loyal to their spouses. They don't seem to stay loyal to their friends. They definitely, I understand, because of work, they don't stay loyal to their employers. I just think that loyalty has kind of gone out the window. So I squeezed them both in there. What is your one?
Loyalty. So yeah, I completely agree with you. The thing with loyalty is it's akin to integrity. It's do you protect my name when it's been spoken illy of, and I'm not around. Did you have the chance to do something that I would never find out about, and instead of doing what may have been easy to do or better for you, you did what would have negatively impacted me, or you didn't do what would have negatively impacted me, even though I would have never known that it was done. So loyalty and integrity are right there running that same race as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's definitely number one for me. And that wraps up our all-time top 5 qualities we admire in others. Now, BK, it is time for your best bets, my guy. What you got?
So you and I think the public are going to hate me this week because I am going to kick the can and wait till next week. But I'm going to give it a reason why. So we talked in college about the lackluster amount of quality games this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Michigan, Oklahoma is a truly good game, I think. And I even think that Illinois and Duke is an intriguing game. But there's really nothing else on the docket that's really noteworthy this week. It's just not a great week in college football, to be honest. And in the NFL, it's week 1. And we talk about all the time about one of the strategies that I use is I like to see the teams first before I make any judgments, because we don't know what these teams are going to look like. And the other part too is we know the lines are always so tight in the NFL because they have more information. It's more bet on than anything. So these margins are so tight to begin with. We really don't know. And the other part of it is, teams don't play these watered down preseasons. So the first month of the year is essentially glorified preseason that actually counts towards your win-loss record.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Now, I will tell you, and to be clear, because the game, we record this on Thursday night, you all will see this and hear this tomorrow on Friday morning. But the one bet I actually placed this week was I teased the Eagles and the Broncos because I got the Eagles at -1 and the Broncos at home over the Titans -2. You give me, even as good as Cam Ward has looked, you give me the Titans on the road against the Broncos in week 1 against that defense. Now, again, I don't get credit for this teaser because the Eagles game has already gone on. I truly don't know the score other than what you told me earlier. But since the game goes on and we have integrity, this doesn't count. But it was the one game in my personal account that I put because I was like, okay, it crosses all these key numbers. I moved the Eagles from 7-1, the Broncos from 8-2. So I crossed 4 key numbers. Just for those of you who don't know out there what that means, key numbers are typically common scores that the games end in. So 3, 4, 6, 7 are common point differentials at the end of the game, like 20-13, 17-14. Those are common endings, those point differentials. So that's the only thing that I did personally. But again, doesn't count towards a best bet. Was there anything on your radar this week? I'm curious.
Not a whole lot. I went the route of the teaser as well. And let's see here. I have Philly -1.5, Arizona -0.5 point going up against New Orleans, and Spencer Rattler can't score to save his life. In the Houston Texans +8.5 going up against the Los Angeles Rams, who may be without their quarterback after the first half of the first quarter because he has a half a back. So, yeah, that was my the 3 that I set up with the teaser. But I also like that Broncos pick of yours. I would have made it a 4-team teaser instead of 3 had I been thinking Broncos as well.
Yeah, I just think it's just really hard to go into Mile High and win, especially when you're projected to not be a very good football team with a rookie quarterback.
Correct.
And I won't lie, I actually really like Cam Ward. I was high on him in college, and I really think he's going to be a good pro. I really do. Just not in week 1 on the road against Denver.
I think they get crushed. They lose by 10 points. You don't even need a teaser on that specific game, in my humble opinion. That's the one, because you can kind of depend on defense, and you can depend on Sean Payton to have a decent offense. And their offense got better in their offseason. And the vast majority of the most important players on the Tennessee Titans have never played together. Yeah, they're going to beat that team by more than a touchdown. So.
Yeah, in my mind, I was thinking it was going to be like a 2-touchdown game. But the reason why I moved the line is truthfully because of the Eagles one. You get division rivals. You never know what you're going to get in week 1. And so those rivalry games are tough. I would be stunned if the Cowboys beat the Eagles, but stranger things would happen. Like I told you, we know that I'm a huge Florida State fan. I didn't think Florida State was going to beat Bama, and they did. So, that's why they play the game, because if it was an foregone conclusion, they wouldn't play. But I just think the Eagles and the Broncos are definitely the better teams, and you basically just need the better teams to win at home. I feel like that's a pretty safe bet.
Makes sense. And that pretty much wraps it up for this week. And I hope you guys thoroughly enjoy your weekend of football the way that I will. Not so much in college, but Sunday will definitely be fun. We even have a Friday game, the Chargers against the Chiefs. So we have football for the rest of the week and for the foreseeable future for about the next 6 months, give or take. So I'm in hog heaven. This is the time of the year. The only thing that I'm waiting on now is about another month to go by where we'll have no more 90-degree days. Then I'm really in hog heaven. That's really my time of the year. That's when I start breaking out the grill, hitting up Butcher Box, and I don't grill in the summer. That makes zero sense to me. Why would you stand over 500-degree heat when it's 100 degrees outside?
Zay, I'll put my steak order in now.
Look, BK, I digress. We won't hold you any longer. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend of football. And remember, above all else, tell the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
We out.
Later, y'all.